Welcome to Little Paul Horrors. I'm Little Paul, and this is Little Paul Horrors. Thank you for visiting my channel. Thank you for visiting, and welcome to the new individuals who have just discovered my channel, and welcome back to the individuals who are returning again. And I would like to say also thank you to all the individuals who watched my previous video on The Omen and left commentary on the bottom, commentary in my on my YouTube channel with regards to the question, what would you do if you found out that the devil that you were raising the devil's child? And I got some pretty interesting commentary and comments down there. So I would like to say thank you very much. And if you have the opportunity, please check out my video and all my other videos on my channel as well. And if you do check out that particular one of The Omen, leave a comment down below about what you would do if you found out that you were raising the devil's child. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite movie franchises and a particular movie within that movie franchise. So we're not talking about Nightmare on Elm Street, and we're not talking about It, and we're not talking about Halloween. What are we talking about? Well, you could see on my green screen the mask that I was wearing, my YouTube short. Let's be smart about this, okay? Let's put two and two together and think about this. It is Friday the 13th, but which one? That's the one. You get it, right? You see it on my screen, right? It's part 6. So Friday the 13th, part 6. Friday the 13th, part 6 is an amazing movie. Friday the 13th, part 6 is the one installment in the franchise that can stand alone by itself without the first one, the second one, the third one, or the fourth one, or even the abysmal fifth one. But if it wasn't for the fifth one, we wouldn't have the sixth one. So we'll talk about that in a moment. The part 6 stands alone because you do not need to know the story. You don't need to know anything about it. It explains it within the movie, and it stands alone by itself. And that's the reason why, on its own and part of the franchise as an installment, it does very well. And also, this is known as the second most popular movie within the franchise. So you have the first one, which is the original one, Friday the 13th. And then you have Friday the 13th part 6. And you have all the other ones that fall into place afterwards. So after the abysmal part 5, the new beginning of Friday the 13th was, came out in theaters in 85 and then almost destroyed the whole franchise. Paramount Studios decided that they would need to breathe new life into this franchise and to bring it back to life, because it just did very bad. It didn't. The fifth one really sunk the franchise down into a pit of despair. So they were looking around, and they were actually shopping around for a different type of director that could breathe some originality into it, some creativity, or a different creative outlook on bringing back and breathing new life into this movie. So the director, Tom McLaughlin, was brought into this movie to direct this movie. And he was brought in because of the fact that he was known to be a very easygoing individual and director to work with, but also was very creative and used to work on a lot of comedy. And they wanted to see if they could, add his expertise, add his skills into breathing new life and resurrecting the franchise. And he actually did that. So before we get into that, let's talk about the cast itself. So the cast are relatively newbies in there, except for one. I'll explain about that later, if I do remember. Hopefully I do. So we have Tom Matthews, who plays Tommy Jarvis. We have Ron Palillo, who plays Alan Hawes, who is his friend. He plays at the beginning of the movie. Then we have Jennifer Cook as Megan. We have David Keegan as Sheriff Garris. Then from there we have Carrie Noonan as Paula. Then Renee Jones as Sissy. And then we have Tom Fridley as Court. Now, Tom Fridley is the cousin of John Travolta. And then we have Darcy DeMoss as Nikki. Now, these are the individuals that play the main camp counselors in the movie. And as I mentioned before, we're going to go back to Alan Hawes, who's played by Ron Palillo. Ron Palillo used to play Horshack on the show Welcome Back, Kotter, which was a show back in the 70s. He always used to raise up his hand. He was a student in the classroom, and he would raise up his hands and go, oh, Mr. Cotton, Mr. Cotton. He would laugh like, that's how he would laugh. So basically, that's who he is. So they added him into the movie itself. I'm sorry, but that's the way he laughed. So they brought him into the movie to add that, like he was like the comedy relief at the beginning of the movie. So let's get into the movie itself. So Tom McLoughlin wanted to steer away from what they were doing in part 5. In part 5, you have somebody else who's playing Jason. They wanted Jason back. So, spoiler alert for those people who haven't watched this movie. I'm going to describe the beginning of the movie. So the beginning of the movie, basically you have Tommy Jarvis and Alan Hawes. They're inside a truck and they're driving away from the hospital for the criminally insane because they were let out. And they're driving towards a graveyard, or the graveyard where Jason Voorhees was buried. So when they drive there, they decide that they're going to, after they find his plot, and where he's buried, that they're going to grab their shovels, dig out the plot to find the casket to make sure that he's dead. After they do that and they open up the casket, they see that there he is, dead and covered with maggots. Now, Tommy Jarvis, played by Tom Matthews, decides that he wants to be sure. He wants to be sure, extra sure that he's dead. So he walks up to the fence that's there, and with this superhuman strength is able to rip off this part of the fence that looks like a spear, like a large impaling device, like a spear. And he stands over the grave and he starts to stab at Jason and swearing and screaming. And then, Ron Palillo, who's playing Alan Hawes, is just off on the left, and he's just like adding comedy relief, which is really, really hysterical. I found it very funny. So as he's stabbing him, there's this storm that's brewing, and then you hear the thunder and the lightning is striking, and all of a sudden the lightning strikes the pole that he's been stabbing Jason with, and then everything explodes. The two characters go flying, and the electricity pumps into Jason, and then Jason's eye opens, and then there's all these maggots around his eye, starts to look around, which means that he's come back to life. So that's the way that they bring back Jason back to life in the franchise. And the reason why is that Tom McLoughlin was inspired by the old 30s and 40s horror movies where they had like monsters that were brought to life, like Frankenstein. And he basically said that he wanted to bring Jason back like a supernatural being. And that's where the whole supernatural comes into effect. Like part 6 is followed by part 7, he's supernatural, and part 8, and part 9, and 10, and even Freddy versus Jason. That's where it all starts, in part 6. So part 6 is the actual starting point for, we would say, the invincibility or the inability to kill Jason. Okay, so that part is always, I found that the beginning of it very well done. Throughout the movie itself, I'm telling you, it is funny. It has great characters, memorable scenes. Humor which is used is so, like, you have to be a Gen Xer to understand it. Like, obviously anybody, if you watch the movie, hopefully will laugh at certain scenes. But being a Gen Xer myself, I found the movie to be particularly hilarious with certain commentary and certain statements that are made within the script itself during the filming of the movie. So I found it particularly funny. So that's what Tom McLoughlin brought to it. He brought humor to it. You have humor with regards to the camp counselors in the car. You have humor with the actual paintball scene at the beginning of the movie, which is really funny and really funny when you watch it, because it adds, there's humor. It's funny because you have even the music that is usually made for comedy movies, or a musical score that would be related to comedy movies, being put into this movie as well to add that humor to it. Even the children that are in the movie that are playing the kids that are going to the camp have some funny one-liners as well too. So you have to watch the movie itself to understand what I'm talking about. And if you've already watched it, tell me what you think about my comments with regards to the comedy aspect of the movie itself as well. Now, The movie, after that, with regards to Jason, they wanted to pick a person that was intimidating, so a person who was big and strong. So one of the first person that they picked was Don Bradley, and Don Bradley only played in the paintball scene at the beginning of the movie. But then after that, they weren't very satisfied with, I guess, with his portrayal of Jason, so they chose C.J. Graham, and C.J. Graham was a restaurant manager, but also served in the military before. 6'3", 250 pounds. And if you watch him through the rest of the movie, he is so dedicated to the role. And I just love the way he plays Jason, because you could see how disciplined he is with regards to how he looks at the victim, or how he attacks the victim, or how he chases the victim, or how he looks at the victim, or observes the victim, I guess you could say. He does a really, really good job, or how he attacks the victim too, and how he kills the victim. There's so many things that he does that are so great. But then afterwards, he was replaced by Kane Hodder. So Kane Hodder did the rest, mostly the rest of the Jasons in the franchise. But I really liked C.J. Graham, because he just did a very good portrayal of Jason in my view. In addition to this movie, it's the only movie within the franchise that shows absolutely no nudity. And the reason why is Tom McLaughlin stated that nudity and sex scenes within horror movies are always synonymous with getting killed. He said, why not add something different to it? Take away the, oh, being naked is going to get you killed. And why don't we keep the people clothed? So there is a sex scene within the movie, but you don't see any nudity. It's just the sex scene itself. What happens afterwards is brutal, but it's still the only movie within, or the only installment within the franchise that shows absolutely no nudity. The movie also has a great two amazing songs from the 80s from Alice Cooper. So you have Teenage Frankenstein, and you have Man Behind the Mask. Yes, it is a thumbs up. Yes, Teenage Frankenstein is a huge thumbs up. Yeah, so, and then you have also the Man Behind the Mask. He's Back, The Man Behind the Mask, which was written specifically for this movie by Alice Cooper. When this movie came out, it came out to very good reviews from the audience, because it actually resurrected, as I mentioned before, it breathed new air and new life back into the franchise, because it made it interesting again. So individuals responded positively towards the movie. The critics didn't as much. Not all critics did. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it's given a 50%. Now, I'm not a big fan of that number. Like, I usually respect Rotten Tomatoes with regards to their reviews, but this one I'm not a big fan of. So, because I'm saying to myself, look, it's the script is solid, the acting is solid, the scare scenes is solid, and it's also very funny. It's hilarious at certain times that you actually bust a gut laughing. And I'm like, it checks all the boxes, at least for me. But I guess everybody has their own particular viewpoint on this movie, and I've seen other things that I will be commenting on in the future with regards to certain movies that actually received 100%, which are on Rotten Tomatoes. It Follows. Ugh, horrible movie. But that will be on another one, and I promise you I will be commenting on that in the future. So the movie itself came out on August 1st, 1986, and it was produced on a $3 million budget, and it made about $17 million at the box office, which is not bad, for $3 million, making $17 million at the box office. Pretty good return, right? And in today's standards, it would be about 8.5 million to make and about 57 million back to return as a return at the box office. So it did pretty good. The movie itself is just so well done. It has everything that you could possibly imagine in it, meaning from it is funny, it has good character development, and at the same time, it's not a movie that you need to know anything about the previous installments to enjoy this movie. This movie is the one that stands alone. So with that being said, what did you think about what I had to say? Do you agree? Do you not agree? Give a thumbs up, a thumbs down, leave a comment below about my viewpoint. I hope you enjoyed this video. thank you very much for coming for visiting my channel and watching what I had to say. And again, share, subscribe, and like this channel. As I said before, I'm a small little channel in a very, very huge platform. So please give a thumbs up, thumbs down, like and subscribe and share, and let people know that there is this guy out there that likes to review classic horror movies, and we'll be reviewing also some new ones which will be on their way as soon as I possibly can. Until the next time we meet, enjoy the show.